we're meeting right now and talking. The entrepreneurial community in Spokane, where we're all working together and sharing discussions and topics and bringing to light. But it's bringing people with like-minded interests together to have a good conversation and to help and support each other as well.
Okay, so like-minded interest. Okay, awesome. We can work with that. Are we all good? Is everybody on the same page? All right, it's important. Now, let's talk about entrepreneurship, because I think, to me at least, and I've done even presentations on this, we tend to mix small business and entrepreneurship and use those words interchangeably, and they're pretty similar, but I think some people think of entrepreneurs as tech only or startup only. So let's talk about that. What's your, talk to me about what an entrepreneur is to you.
Yeah, so an entrepreneur, I think, is, their personality is that they have a vision and they're really excited about portraying their vision and leading people with their excitement for that. They could be, an entrepreneur can have a small business, and that could be a passion. I used to own a laundromat and dry cleaner, so
we're going to talk about that too.
I was a small business owner, but also an entrepreneur with a vision and to make it bigger and to go beyond just the day-to-day grind of things.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, excellent. Is everybody good? We're working on the same language here. Okay, so tell me about, let's talk a little bit, let's start with Next Level Venture and its role in the entrepreneurial community. So talk about, I know you said it's learn business by doing business, but really what's the thing that you do there? What's the deliverable?
So Next Level.
Oh, sorry, I mixed them up. New Venture Lab.
New Venture Lab. I know, it's NVL and NLV.
Yeah.
Very confusing.
New Venture Lab.
New Venture Lab, NVL. So at Gonzaga. So it's part of the Hogan Entrepreneurial Program. And you have, any entrepreneur can apply, and we apply for each semester. So we're going to be accepting applications in August. And these business owners are going to have a project that they need. Be very specific on what project needs you have. And the students, they're learning things in their classroom. Maybe they are finance majors, accounting majors, even psychology or English majors. Any type of student in any discipline can apply for the New Venture Lab. So the entrepreneurs will apply, and then we have 3 directors, and those 3 students lead the program, and they will do an interview and narrow it down to a few more, and then they will hire or look for project managers who are also students to lead these projects. So last fall we had 9 projects, and then this spring semester we had 6. But we had 30 apply this last go around.
Wow.
So
30 businesses applied,
yes.
and you accepted 6. Okay.
And we accepted 6, which can be, really challenging. So, once you're in, once you have been accepted, then a team of 5 students are compiled, and they create a scope of work. And throughout the semester, they'll have 3 different report outs. We also have advisors, so just business leaders in the community who also help the students as well. And so they're part of the initial scope work, and then they sit in on one of the report outs. So they give their advice and help those students. And the idea is to have, if the students are working on a project and they're like, I'm not really sure, I can connect with a marketing expert and help with that. So
can I tell just a quick,
Sure.
I actually had a client that went through this process. Uncle Dan's Seasoning and Salad Dressings, if you're familiar, they do dry mix ranch dressing, and they wanted to do blind taste testing with theirs and Hidden Valley Ranch. So they applied, they got accepted, and they did, I think, 2 or 3 rounds of just blind taste testing. They did it in the Hemmingson building, and then they did it over at My Fresh Basket. And it was it gave them actionable data that they could use to go and pitch their product to retailers and things like that, because they won 8-2 or 9-1. Their product was favored over the big valley-based competitor.
Yeah. Another good story was last in the fall. There was a woman who owns a housekeeping service, house cleaning service. And originally she was like, okay, I need help with marketing. But as as the students kind of dug into the marketing situation, it was more about her and her employees. Because if you don't have great employees, why have great marketing? So you need to really deal with that. So the students were able to find some options for managing her employees, and then also creating lots of social media and such to spotlight on how great her employees are. So it allows that entrepreneur to really dig in and see where they need the help. And it's interesting where you think, oh, it's just marketing, but it could be other things.
No, but you're right. But because those are people that you're welcoming into your home, and like, who am I going to get? And it would be great to see those profiles, maybe online or something, as a part of a campaign before allowing them into my house, right?
Yeah.
Like, that makes a ton of sense. Did you have a question? Well, can we get oh, look at you. Right, I love it.
It's a two-part question. First, if I understand you correctly, you're not helping bring a venture about so much as you are specific projects within a venture that's already going. Is that correct to say? And second, do you feed into Startup Spokane and the Spokane Angel Alliance at all?
With the New Venture Lab?
Yeah.
So the New Venture Lab kind of morphs through, it's been around since 2002. And so it started as one way, and it just kind of changes and evolves as, in fact, Launchpad was one of their earlier projects in 2008.
Yes.
And I looked at some of their, the documentation. It was like, we're going to help businesses with this new thing called social media. And now the social media that the students help with is just amazing,
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a new venture we would, but that was where it started. It's like, ooh, you got an idea, so now that some students can work on that. And with the Hogan program, a lot of the classes that's what they are tasked with, coming up with their own business idea and then going through, business canvas and that sort of thing. So it all depends on who applies too. So, and if they work well with the students, and it's because it's also a teaching moment too. So the entrepreneur has to be also able to be a good teacher and be available and such. So.
Right. So if you look at Spokane and the community that supports entrepreneurs and small businesses, there's a lot of resources that are available, and they all fit like a different mold. My buddy Victor's here with SCORE. That's one-on-one business mentoring. If you just need somebody to come alongside you and mentor you through a challenge or just growing your business. What you're providing is more, like, to me, one of the values is that research-rich thing. Like, if I know I've got a good thing going, but I don't really have the data to support it, that's one area where I think of New Venture Lab as a really great resource to have students help me, like, troubleshoot or do the research or come up with some data. But I know that's just one aspect, right?
Correct. That is one aspect. And Mark Pond his name is known all over campus, so he gets filled with lots of questions from students. So great resource at the library. So lots done.
Let's talk about that. Did we have I thought I heard somebody maybe firing up a question over there. Tell me how you see New Venture Lab fitting in that ecosystem of, these support services for businesses and entrepreneurs.
Right. Oh gosh. Yeah, and that's something I've been talking to a lot of startup organizations, and there's so many in town, and we all do a little bit different things. And so I'm always thinking, if someone just woke up in the morning and go, I'm going to start my own business, where would they begin? And there's Sparks Weekend, which is a great way to put your idea out there and test it in front of a big group of people, and then work on the weekend with that idea. So where New Venture Lab can come in is after you've gone through that process, you can come to New Venture Lab and work through more of your idea. But then Startup Spokane is another great place where it's like, how do I get a business license? Where do I go to structure my business? Then you have the Gonzaga Law Clinic, which offers free law
I know, I just am
advice.
now hearing about
Yes.
this, and I'm shocked that this resource in town
Yes.
doesn't get more play.
So if you're wondering, should I do an LLC? What kind of documents should I do to tap into that as well? So there's so many different resources, and my hope is that everyone who is in charge of these organizations can say, I know, I can hear what you need, and I know the person that you need to go to.
Yeah, I think Startup Spokane is trying to fit into that. If I'm, yeah, Mark's nodding, yes, so I read that right. But yeah, and that is the tricky part. It's like if you're starting a new business, or if you have a business that's maybe struggling, what do you Google? And how do you find that help? And then where do you go? So it is tricky. All right, so now, any questions on, I don't want to, I mean, we'll bounce around, so we can come back, but any questions on New Venture Lab and what it is they do and how they support the community? Yeah, Victor has one right behind you, Jethro.
Yeah, my question is, what you mentioned, Kelly, is it basically then just for students that apply to Venture Lab?
No, it's entrepreneurs. Any Spokane business owner can apply, yes. And then the students work on the project.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, Uncle Dan's, I know somebody that's applied. I've worked with other clients that have applied, weren't accepted, which shows that there's lots of demand, which is great. So I think if you're a business and you have some sort of a challenge and you need some groupthink put together behind it, that would be a
right,
great
and we're
place to
looking
start.
for a diverse set of businesses. So a lot of projects are tending to be marketing.
Yeah.
But think about all the other, like, how could you have a psychology major help you with your project? Or, we have great computer science, and maybe it's an AI startup that you're working on. It's just think of all the diverse sets of students out there.
What is the commitment by the company required?
Great question.
Yeah, so to be available. So ideally, in Spokane, would love to be an in-person meeting, but a lot of times the students, their schedules are like, they can either meet, in the evening, but be able to meet once a week, or at least be available, online to have a Zoom call or something. Just be available. Yeah.
Jethro had no idea what he was signing up for this morning when I handed him that mic. He's getting his steps in.
I'm curious, a lot of these examples and kind of the language we're using is very specifically around entrepreneurship for businesses that are looking for profit. And so I'm curious if you have any thoughts on if the new Venture Lab would also be a structure or a model, or if it would just integrate easily for a nonprofit type idea.
Yes, actually, we did have a nonprofit in the fall. Let's Build a Community, and Jessica Simpkins. So she had a fun time with her students for sure, and helped with her marketing. So, and she also collaborated with Eastern as well. So that was really fun to have both schools help her on her project. So,
All these people wanting marketing help. If only there was some way that they. That was very shameless. I apologize. Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
Do you have a hard and fast rule for geographic location? Say if we get a company from Sandpoint or Ritzville?
No,
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's not,
But just somewhere eastern Washington,
right.
northern Idaho.
You can have calls, virtual calls. We've had a couple in Seattle, but it's ideal because we have a kickoff event that we like to have the entrepreneurs there for, and at the end of the semester celebration exhibition. So,
Are the students getting credit for this? Is that part of it?
So the 3 directors that run the program it's a paid position.
Oh.
And then the program managers, the project managers, it's a credit that they can get. But the team members get the experience, and a lot of them just want to have something on their resume.
Oh, I was going to say, that's
shows-
wild to me that they
Yeah.
would volunteer just to do it and get the experience.
Well,
That's
they
pretty
can
cool.
see, and we want to really emphasize, starting when you're a freshman and continue with it and just work your way up and have more responsibility. So,
Got it.
yeah, it's a great way.
That opens a lot more questions just from like your role and a management. You're working with some pretty green young folks,
Right.
and if you're talking freshmen and trying to indoctrinate them to this system, how's that going?
Yeah, it's real fun. But one thing that we're trying to encourage is, for example, on LinkedIn, and even Instagram to bring in that social media element. It's like we're helping these entrepreneurs with social media. We need to be doing social media, right?
Yes.
So if you are on LinkedIn, please follow the New Venture Lab page, and because we're spotlighting all the projects and all of the entrepreneurs that they're working on. And this is giving them a way to network. And so it's so important.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are here, you're networking, we're meeting people, and that for students can be really, really nerve-wracking. So to be able to have these online conversations and encourage them to reach out and ask questions and create these relationships, so when
Yeah.
they do, you know, graduate, they'll have these great connections, and hopefully it'll lead them to fantastic jobs. So
Excellent. We have another question. Go ahead.
Thanks. Since we got the whole world watching here, is there?
It's 12 people right now. It's okay. It's great, which is a good number for
I'm sure
us.
they're geographically separated. Is there an aspect of the entrepreneur's journey that is harder to cater to or support when they get into the program? Maybe consistently hard?
consistently hard. Gosh. Like meaning that they're just taking the advice and running with it, or?
About finding advice. Is there an aspect of a new business or a new idea that is harder to support with maybe the resources that the university has?
Like maybe who do you say no to and why?
Oh, golly. Well, some of the technical aspects, like if it's really, really high tech, that can be really exciting for college students to work on it, but might be a little bit too advanced for them in a way. And so that's where the entrepreneur needs to be, really needs to help out and define exactly what that scope of work is that they would need. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But you know, having that scope where it's like, you know, that they're learning things in the classroom, and how much of that we have learned through experience and years of you know, experience. So.
And I suppose it, like with your housekeeping example, it comes down to that interview phase too, where she applied for marketing help, but then in the interview, your students were able to uncover through their questions that this person really needed help with their employees. So I think it would also come down to not only knowing your scope or what it is you're trying to solve or what problem you want to address, but also in the interview, being really prepared to give good answers and to work with the students to maybe drill down further.
Right, and advisors too, our board advisors, if they can help with that too, they're really bridging that that gap of information. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Let's pivot a little bit. I want to talk about the other thing.
Yes.
And I want to make sure I get it right, so I'm going to look at my notes. Next level venture. It was close. So what you said that really intrigued me was telling your story in 2 minutes or less, because we've all heard the term elevator pitch. Everybody knows they should have one, but when you, even this housekeeping person, my guess is if you asked her what she does, she wouldn't actually tell you they clean homes. It would be like, we create positivity by taking stress and burden off of home. And you'd be like, well, what do you do? And that's like a common theme with business owners and entrepreneurs, is struggling to land the plane when asked what it is you do.
Right, yes, exactly. And I light up when I go to a networking event and I have a conversation with someone who's coming up with some really big idea, tech idea. And they're just talking and talking and talking and talking, and I'm,
I have no idea what they do.
what is this? What are you doing? So
We're connecting
and then
people
afterwards,
through,
I'm
you know,
like, you know what? I think you need a pitch for next level venture. And they're like, ooh, okay. So that is one thing that this pitch competition forces them to do is, what do you do in simple terms? And I know with a lot of people who have very sophisticated and complicated businesses that they want to feel like, well, everyone in my industry knows what I do. But it's like, but if you tell it to the masses, you know, if I tell you what I do, and if you can't articulate it, then you're not going to tell your friends or your colleagues or those people that might, you know, help me down the line. So having that clarity is extremely important, and that's one of the big benefits of going through a pitch competition like that.
I will tell folks that they should be able to explain it to a 5-year-old, and they seem almost offended by that idea that using basic or common language somehow dumbs down or whatever that word I was going to try to say was. Yeah, there it was. Somebody did it for me. Like it somehow makes it less cool that if you explain it in simple terms, that the reality is like that's the best way to communicate from a marketing perspective. That's the best way to communicate it. So how does this play out? Like walk me through like I want to submit, I want to do this. What's next, right? Like so how does it?
Yeah. So we are. Okay, let me start from the beginning.
I know you're like explain it to a 5-year-old.
So we have, so when you apply, if you're part of our pitch competition, we're looking for 5 startups to pitch their business. And where they're at is they've already gone through the paperwork of their legitimate business. They got all that taken care of. Maybe they have an MVP that they have already or had some sales, and now they're ready to take their business to the next level.
Well played.
Yes. And so working with them on crafting their pitch, and I have these like a worksheet that they can work through all the different components of a pitch. And we have some online group sessions where we provide feedback, and then we get them on stage and they pitch their business, and they have 3 minutes of question and answer from the audience. And then the audience will vote, and we'll also have some judges that will also chime in with their feedback.
I have so many questions, but the next one is what happens if I win?
What happens if you win?
Yeah.
Then you get notoriety.
Yeah, I know, we're both. That was the caffeine. Thanks,
yes.
Roast House. I'm just kidding.
And it all depends on, the donations. So if your business would like to donate a prize, the next level competition is on April 24th, and we do have a cash prize, $1,700 so far, and a consulting package. So our founders are going to, well, the prize in itself, the biggest prize is being able to tell their story in front of an audience, and what that leads can be numerous things, different things.
Does it have to be a startup like that classic, what we think of as a startup? Or what if they're an established business that's just looking to figure out how to say what they do better?
Well, with this competition, it's going to be more about startups.
Okay.
So, you've got that business idea and you just need that help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, I think it's pretty clear to see how New Venture Lab fits into this community engagement piece. You have a community of students that come, Gonzaga students come from all over, and you get this opportunity to work with a diversity of majors and a variety of, different people. You also have your board and your advisors who are coming in with business experience. So that, to me, makes a ton of sense is how that fits into the community. Next Level Venture, I'm gonna just nail this one. Help me see how that fits in, because I know there's similar things out there, right? You talked about Sparks Weekend, which is somewhat similar, right? But that's more early phase, right? Like, I just have an idea. You're talking maybe a little bit further down the road.
Right. So in the pathway of a startup, you could pitch your idea at Sparks. Then you can form your company and start working on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Working with startup Spokane to get all those details done. And then you're working on your business. You could be also with SCORE. You could be with all these other entities that keep, get your company up and running.
Yeah.
And then applying for, then doing next level. The other thing, part of my competition is it's not a standalone event. I know we all have so many events to go to, right? And to find a date that nothing else is happening at the same day is a challenge. So I want to partner and collaborate with another organization, be it Startup Spokane, and the one that I'm doing in April, on April 24th, is with the Innovation Collective, and that is an organization in Coeur d'Alene. So now we're opening up Coeur d'Alene to these startups. So we're working together. It's their event, and I'm just coming in with the 30-minute, 40-minute, keynote speaker or entertainment factor. So
excellent.
And with those organizations, we now have 2 groups with 2 audiences, and now we're cross-promoting and helping each other up and lifting each other up. So
from a startup perspective, it's just one more possible step toward really making this thing happen. So maybe I go to Sparks Weekend, I pitch my idea, I get validation that the idea is sound, and maybe win, or at least get an opportunity to work on it over the weekend. Spend a few weeks or however long, working on it, getting it going, and then I come to you, and now there's an opportunity to get more notoriety, get out in the public, but also potentially win something, whether it's a consulting package or a cash prize or something like that. Is there a cost to apply?
Yes, there is a cost to apply.
Okay.
So the other piece is the community piece. And then, so we're using Cord, which is another local startup. And it's an online platform that has video calls and discussion boards and chat and all sorts of great things to communicate. And so our members the startups will basically pay a fee to join, a membership fee that will be an annual fee. And they will then use that hub to communicate with each other, we'll have a call on there to practice our pitches with each other. You can record your pitch and add it to the community, and we can comment and discuss on that. And so then once the competition is over, they're going to stick around. So now they're alumni.
Yeah.
So then the next round of founders will come in, and they will have the alumni be able to give them feedback. And that is where the magic really, really happens.
Yeah.
Because it's not just me. It's not just me. It's these founders. They are in the trenches. They're figuring things out. And if someone figured it out, they should tell somebody else and say, hey, don't go down that road. I already went down that road. Let's try it this way. And that is so incredibly helpful.
I think that community piece and that engagement piece is really important. You have, I think Angel Alliance was mentioned, SCORE's been mentioned. These are things that you tend to do in a silo, right? Like I go to SCORE, I'm getting one-on-one mentoring. I pitch at Angel, maybe I get investing, maybe I don't, but there's not like a community aspect to it. Like now I'm working with my angel investor to maybe get my idea going, but there's not this like community. And I like the idea that it's maybe more closed doors because it's this exclusive thing. Like you have to want to be there, right? And I think that provides a really unique opportunity. We got a question here.
Can you speak a little bit about how you evaluate an idea? Because hearing what I'm hearing, one concern I would have is the objectivity of weighing the idea versus the cult of personality that could exist up on a stage. If you have someone who's very persuasive and a good storyteller, getting past and an objective analysis of their business of whether it's good or not.
Yeah, so just testing to see if they're ready to pitch in a way?
No, not necessarily. No, not necessarily. What I'm concerned with is I've seen this in the startup community in Spokane in particular several times before, where someone who is a good storyteller, someone who has a very good personality that's magnetic, can cover up a lot of flaws.
So like
in
idea
their
is
idea.
weak, but person is
Right,
strong, right?
exactly.
Okay.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, so how do we navigate that? Or
Oh,
how do
gosh.
you? Have you?
Well, so prior to Next Level, I was city leader for Founders Live. So one of our competitions in January was the person who won didn't particularly have the best pitch, kind of stumbled with his words and such, but the audience could feel that product was work. It's Sleep Vibe, James Marsh and the Sleep Vibe. And it was at one point, he was on stage and someone asked a question and he just said straight on, it works. It works. And it's a sleep, it's a device to help you get to sleep.
Okay.
And by him just saying that and us knowing, wow, we believe in you, and he won. And I think he won because of that. So you could be a particular storyteller or not, but I think we all know what kind of in deep with if that works, if it's credible, or if they need to pivot. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a good point too, because we've all seen it in that kind of startup entrepreneur community. You do have some big personalities, right? One of my favorite books is Rocket Fuel, which digs into this idea that these founders are these big visionary people who get a lot of people buying into the vision. And is it a good vision? Like that becomes the next question, right? And that's what we're trying to get at. Is it a good idea? Is it a valid idea?
Right. And then the most important part about your pitch is not only to be able to have people be able to resonate and understand it so they can tell their friends and such. But what do you want? What's your ask? Why are you on stage? Is it that you need employees? Is it that you need help with marketing? Is it that you need introductions? So your ask is really, really important too. And that also, when the audience hears that and like, oh, I could do that. That's easy. I could buy your product, or I could tell my friend about it, or I could sign up for your newsletter. So the ask is super, super important.
So it's a two-part. It's like explain your business in really good terms, simple terms, and then you have to have a specific ask. Like, this is what I'm here for.
Right, right.
And have you done an event yet? I know this is a relatively new thing you've started.
Yeah, this is the first one's on the 24th.
Oh, excellent.
Yep.
How many people have signed up?
I am not sure at this time,
Okay.
but tickets are available and they're $15. And the event is through Innovation Collective. And
So it'll be in Coeur d'Alene?
yes, it's
Okay.
in Coeur d'Alene. If you've ever been to the Innovation Collective, it is a really cool place. They have like a speakeasy place with lots of cool furniture, and you have to go through the bookshelf to get there, so it's kind of cool. And also, to give them a shout out, also, they have great networking events. In fact, I've found so many startups from the Innovation Collective, and they have the first and third Wednesday at 7:30 in the morning in Coeur d'Alene. They have networking events. So that's fantastic. But they're also now adding Spokane. So
Got it.
we'll be having on the 18th at First Avenue Coffee is going to be our first local Spokane coffee and concepts.
Yeah.
So that's great.
So how many startups are going to present?
We're going to have 5.
5, okay.
Yes, we
Excellent.
have 5. We have the winner from Sparks Weekend.
Okay, so same thing on that journey,
Yes,
right? Taking the
so,
next step. Okay.
Yes, so Gabrielle's going to be pitching. We also have Andrea Parrish, who has pitched at Sparks also. She has a social media company. Then we have 2 people that I've met through in Coeur d'Alene, Luke Dupin
Oh, I know
and Corey Jepson, who
I know Corey.
yes, so they're pitching. And then the last is Jordan Allen with By Wander.
Oh,
and he
yeah.
is also working with the New Venture Lab. So
Okay.
it's kind of fun to have him pitch his business.
Okay, so I'm just thinking out loud.
Yes.
I want to do that, but I'm not a startup, and I think there might be people in this room who think the same way. Have you thought about doing more of like a mature business one,
Yeah.
where maybe it's just like we're maybe more of the small business, but we want to just see if we're doing a good job of pitching our business in 2 minutes or less, and then maybe we do have an ask or something. Have you
Yeah.
thought about doing
Yeah,
something along those lines?
I've thought about that, definitely, especially it's like, well, how many startups are there in Spokane and how many events can I do? But I also would love to be able to have the cohorts kind of be similar in a way of like, how all 5 of them having a product.
Okay.
So in the past, I've worked with some startups that created clothing items or gadgets and things where you need, well, how do I manufacture this? Where do I go for distribution?
Yeah.
Like if I want to take this worldwide, how do I do that? And it's like, oh, help. It's like who in Spokane can help with that? So if I had all 5 of them, then they can all work on those types of challenges.
And I could see that's where the community, you said, is it Cord that they'll sign up for? That could
Yeah.
be really helpful when they do get to the next phase where they're like, I do need a source, or I need to figure out how to get a mold or whatever. And maybe this group can say, hey, well, I've worked with these folks, or I've done it here, or I've done it there. That could be a really great resource for that as well. And coming back to sort of our main theme, which is community engagement and entrepreneurship, you can start to see why these organizations are important, because you have an idea, it's really hard to know what to do next, right?
Right.
And Startup Spokane gives a lot of answers. SCORE's a great resource, but at some point you're going to have to take the next step beyond just thinking about it, and there's a lot of opportunities for that.
Right.
So I have another question, and by all means we want to take more from the audience and anyone online. So there's a lot of these pitch competitions for students, right? And we were just talking about that before we started. Yours is open to anybody, right? Like it's wide open, correct?
Right.
Okay. And how is it? So are you familiar with the student ones a little bit? Like I know there's I always forget, they keep renaming it, but there's
Yeah.
like the Inland Northwest one in entrepreneurship pitch. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's
and
something.
WSU has a business plan one.
The
Yes.
the business plan one. So those ones are aimed at students, or you have to have a student on the team. But that fits another part of the community, right? As they are aiming at students who have ideas.
Yes.
Let's talk about how both of what you're doing, like, I want to really dig into this idea of community engagement. What's the most important piece about it? Like, why does a community matter? Why can't I just work on this on my own?
Oh goodness. So when I had started my business. Well, let me take it back.
Yeah.
When I had the laundromat.
I wanted to come back to this.
When I had the laundromat, it's like, okay, I know business. I graduated a business degree. I can figure this out all on my own. And sure, it's like I needed help, and I didn't really know where to go, but I'd get like the Coin Laundry magazine, and I looked in there. I'm like, who is the closest person that I could ask a question about? And if the laundromat community, they have a clean show, and it's like I just didn't tap into that. I didn't know. I thought, oh, well, we're competitors, and so why would we share
right.
trade secrets? But I did go over to the West Side and talk to a laundromat owner early on, and wow, she really helped me with. I just asked her a question: what works? What should I be doing? And she was really, really helpful. And if I would have had that resource to constantly tap into, I wouldn't have made all of those learned from all those mistakes. I would have known not to go down that road. So then moving forward, when I was dabbling in blockchain and NFTs and going down that road as a technology consultant for a short time with Token Square, that is where I found the power of community. And that is where it's like, if I did not tap into that community right from the get-go, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah.
And that just started by me being on LinkedIn. It's like, okay, LinkedIn, right? And this guy, Chris, and he was like always commenting all the time. And I was trying to learn Web3 and NFTs and blockchain. And he kept commenting on everyone's post. And he said, who wants to join me in the metaverse for a conversation, some virtual coffee? And I'm like, I've never done this before. He seems like a nice guy. Okay, I'll do that. And he lives in Poland. And he kept, we had a fun time in the metaverse. That's another story. I got caught, we went up to the penthouse, and he's like, come outside and look. And I fell off the side, and my avatar couldn't get out, and it was just terrible. But anyway, he kept having these virtual coffees and connecting with people on LinkedIn. And then he would have like a online, just a virtual online meeting. And he would keep track of who was showing up. And after a few months, he would publish a list. He goes, every time I have an event, these top 20 always show up. And I'm like, where am I? Oh, I'm on the list. And it was like, my competitive nature is like, oh yes, I'm on the list. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
Because then he took that top 20 and he made a community. And we shared ideas, and we helped each other out, and we had side conversations and things, and we built up this network of knowledge. And then he morphed it into a paid community, and now he has, I think he still has 100 members. It's just amazing how community can build on each other. And so then whenever a community member will post something on LinkedIn, then you have a huge following. It's just like, will comment and lift you up. And then people are like, who's this person? Why are they getting all the attention? So it's brilliant. It's really brilliant.
So this idea, though, of community, and I'm going to ask maybe a tough question, is dependent on the startups, not like co-opetition, like the idea that maybe there is enough room for all of them to exist. But the reality is, especially in the Spokane or greater Spokane area, there's finite resources for funding and other things available. So I think this idea of community is great, but it's sort of dependent on the idea that the startups are going to play nicely, right? And so what's your experience like with that? You're knee deep in this. Like, are people taking that mindset, these ideas, these founders and people with big ideas, and are they playing nicely with each other?
Oh yes, for sure. What I've seen. I'm sure there's different stories out there, but Especially if you're trying something new, especially with this Web3 community, it's just cutting edge technology and not a lot of people know about it, and getting that word out is challenging. So everyone's there to support each other because they know it's the bigger picture. The bigger picture is getting everyone aware of that aspect.
So I guess if you take that mindset that the bigger picture here is that we want to build a healthy startup ecosystem,
right.
and if we all play nicely, that helps everybody, right?
Exactly.
I guess I'm trying to make the pitch to anybody in the room or watching online that if you have an idea, it doesn't matter, if it's good or bad, you should feel welcomed by a community that's ready to help you flesh that idea out and maybe see if it's,
Right.
worthwhile.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there where I just feel like, how do I do this? And I just kind of guess and go with my gut, and I just realize, well, that wasn't the best choice, or you make decisions, and you're like, okay, I'm going to invest in this, and you actually put money into it, and you realize that was not the best ideas, and then that money is gone, and it's like, now what? So, I think, helping make life easier. Why should we make it complicated? Make business easier. That should be my slogan.
I agree. This is kind of dependent on two things, right? One, there's got to be a certain amount of trust that you can present your idea and no one's going to take it.
Yes.
So how does that work?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
It
is competitive.
It is.
Okay.
Right.
But have you? Oh, yeah. I knew that was going to get someone going.
Yeah, but I mean, if your idea is that uncomplicated, that would be an issue. But okay, say you have this, you think it's the greatest idea ever, and then you pitch it to someone and someone is going to take it. I mean, well, one, it would strike me as an idea that you couldn't build a moat around in the first place. Second off, are they going to execute it as well as you?
Right.
Do they have the same network you do, or are they in the same position?
Yeah.
So that's more
Or
of a
the
comment.
uniqueness of it also. It's like, well, we could do both. Like we have both. We have grant writers here, so we have grant writers that have special niches. So.
Yeah. I guess that becomes another thing is are you maybe a subject matter expert? Is the idea born out of your personal experience that would be difficult to replicate?
Right, exactly.
So like that's my first thing is it, can I feel safe joining this community? And the second thing I was thinking is as startups and as all this, I mean, does it have to be tech? Does it have to be, right? What are you seeing? Is it a mix of tech and other stuff? Because tech tends to be like the sexiest thing when it comes to startups, right?
Right.
And AI, right? It's like if we throw AI on it, like a few years ago, if we add coin or whatever, right? It'll make us worth more. What did Snapple do? Didn't they change their company name and on the index so that or like Snapple Chain or something, and then their stock went up? Like, there's the kitschy, sort of thing, but then there's, I don't know. I lost the question. It flew right out the window.
I mean, even like in the entrepreneurial program at Gonzaga, it's like all the students are coming up with apps. Everything is an app.
Yeah.
Everything's an app. So, because it's easy to think of, but then it's hard to pull that off. It's like coming up with the idea of this app that does everything. It's like now you're breaking it down and actually making it work. And how are you going to get paid? Also,
yeah, that always becomes
the other thing.
Like one of my favorite unsolvable problems is this idea that what's happening near me, right? There's not a single app that you can download that'll tell you the concerts and the shows and everything that's happening near you. It's an unsolvable problem. But boy, howdy, if somebody solved that, how cool would that be, right? But no one's been able to crack that nut. I don't know. Yeah, and then that becomes, am I willing to pay for that, right? I think we have a question over here. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm excuse me, I'm sitting here thinking of, pitch competitions and evaluations of your startup. I really liked your question about, so if you get into the pitch competition, I'm assuming there is some kind of business evaluation, right? I mean, you look at the business model and you look at the person and you say, okay, you are not a felon. You are, come on, I was a reporter for 20 years, right? I mean, the people are out there trying to take advantage of things. So I'm assuming that you evaluate the business, right?
Well, in terms of, a lot of the times when I say pitch competition, people think, oh, you're pitching for money, venture capital money. And I don't want to take that area. Instead, I want to be that stepping stone. So if they're going to pitch for Angel Alliance, for example, they're going to have a longer pitch, and they're going to be pitching for money and funding. So that's going to. So what I like to do is get them so they can pitch in a short pitch, go through the process of it, get some validation. Is my business worth it? You know, and if they win, or if someone's in the audience going, yep, you're ready for the next part of funding, then it's working with a mentor to get their longer pitch deck and how do you pitch for money.
Okay.
So it's more low risk on your
Yeah,
in
real
your
low
phase.
risk,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so one more question, if I
fire
could,
away.
please. So talk to me a little bit about these business groups, these communities that you know you can subscribe to. I mean, I feel like I'm sometimes being networked to death. I mean,
Yeah.
there's coffee everywhere. I've been really aggressively recruited by Facebook-based small business groups, small entrepreneur groups, and quite frankly, I hope I don't offend anybody in here. That environment feels predatory to me. I'm not comfortable in that environment. I'm like, I don't sell dingbats. I'm a writer, so I can't sell you 5 buckets for the price of 4 or whatever. So can you help me evaluate some of these environments? We don't have to mention any names or anything, but as a business owner and a person who only has herself doing all the work, where do you go? How do you know if this was really a good place for me because I've
Right.
made good connections, and this over here was like some weird back alley meeting at a brewery that I'm never going to go to again? I mean, help me understand how
We
do you
started in a
pick?
back alley, just so you know. I'm just kidding.
I live in an alley. Okay, so help us understand how do
Yeah.
you? There's so many
There
groups. I mean, oh my God.
Yeah.
And everybody wants $50.
Right.
And before
Did
you
I get
know
your
it-
$50 by the way when you came? Okay. I'm just-
Well, and that's the thing. There's, you have a paid community or you have a free community. So I'm in part of both. And the free community sounds great, right? It's free. But the people there are not necessarily, there's just a different vibe. It's a different vibe. If it's free, it's like people they don't have skin in the game. They're just like in and out. They may or may not, collaborate and offer that help. But perhaps that's where you can learn something or make some connections or just blast your message out. But I think paid communities bring the most value. You're committed, you're going to show up. But also it's like, well, who else is in there and what is the community built around? What is the focus? So like the Facebook group that has 5,000 members and they're all small businesses, I know I'm going to go there and I'm going to have a particular mission in mind of what that audience is about. But like going to the IC with Innovation Collective, more high-tech people, they're going to be, the app creators, they're going to know a lot about AI and robotics and that kind of nerdy stuff that I love too, and I'll know that that's where I'm going to find those unique startups that are in technology. So I guess it's just a matter of who's in the room, what the topic is, but you have to, as a community member, you need to do, it's two-way, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of members that can just come in and just like listen and watch and observe, and they're getting a lot of value, but it's also being able to step up and put yourself out there too and offer assistance and help too.
I think it's, I kind of jump into, so I know Mark Pond and the library with Startup Spokane are trying to be that sort of entry point where maybe some of these community support services for businesses and the startup ecosystem, there's a list and maybe there's a, maybe not a glossary, but like, you can kind of learn more about what's available. But I think it's a really fair point. It's hard to know even in the local area, what's Business Brew, what's Coffee and Concepts, what's, Launchpad's back and doing some fun events. And then, you've got, there's all these things and it is hard to know. And not that you and I have answers to that, but it can feel risky to jump in. But I know Startup Spokane is trying to solve that problem, at least being the starting point and their vetted resources that are available there.
Right, yeah. And then there's organizations that focus on sciences too. So if you're, building a science organization or company, that you have those science.
Yeah, like Evergreen Bioscience and all
And
those.
SB3NW.
Yeah, SB3, yeah. And that is, I mean, if you were brand new to the area and brand new to business, it would feel a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to have Mark Pond back on Business Brew to give us the rundown again.
Yeah, Spokane Business Concierge Service.
Right.
We just guide you.
There's your idea,
along
there's your pitch.
to
But
where
it's
you
only
need to go.
$50, right? I'm just kidding. It's free.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions as we get into our final minutes here? Oh, we got one over here. Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. That was very good. Thank you. I always enjoy coming here. I don't come very often, but I every time I come,
Well, to
I
be
get
fair,
something.
we haven't had it very often in the last few months, so.
But a question is, I remember talking to an individual who is unemployed, and he asked me this question, which I'm trying to relate to the startups as well. But he said, Victor, I would like to really go to to the industrial park and go to a central office that would say, do you have employment from any of these businesses that are around here, rather than going to and visit each business to see if they have any openings for whatever it might be. And I thought, this reminds me of something that sometimes I have heard through SCORE, of somebody saying, I have never heard of a SCORE, or I have never heard of the Women Business Center, or I have never heard of the issues that you're talking about. And I know that startup is doing a good job, and I'm sorry that Mark is not here right now to ask him, but do we have one source that we can go and say, this is my situation, where can you guide me to? Is there anything like that in Spokane? Because I think even GSI, which is a big organization within Spokane, doesn't have that source. In this case,
Yeah.
Yeah, employment.
Yeah, I
side.
don't think there's, it has been something that I know several people have tried to tackle, is that exact idea. Whether it is employment or anything else, is where do I go, right?
Right.
Where's the starting point?
Yeah, and I know that Mark is working very hard on getting a master calendar of events too, because there are tons and tons of events. So
Yeah, business events, right?
yes,
Not all the concerts.
business events,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not sure, maybe that's your pitch, Victor. Are we going
Yeah.
to see you at one of the competitions? You're going to solve it, right? Give us an app that solves it.
Yeah.
I-
And
I
that's kind of why I want to collaborate with, with GSI, with Rotary, with all these organizations to kind of your group of people and my group of people are going to come together, and it's like, oh, I didn't know you and you didn't know me,
and sometimes I think that rather than, I see it as collaboration, which is very effective for the entire community.
Right.
And sometimes some people see each other as competition.
Oh, that's for sure.
And that is, that's the wrong idea. Because
know-
if we have any talents that we have, I think going back to what you say, do we charge for anything or this, is basically collaborating and providing your talents to somebody else who will benefit. And that's the beauty about doing things
Right.
in cooperation.
Pre-pandemic, there was a small group. I think it was actually organized in collaboration with SCORE when I was chapter chair. And the idea was get the leaders of all these organizations, so you would have been included, GSI, whoever would have been included, and get them to meet at least quarterly to share, collaborate, and talk about how do we support this ecosystem better.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the pandemic,
yeah.
killed off a lot
And
of
then
things.
also getting the universities together too.
Yeah,
in the
that's
Entrepreneurial
another one.
Program,
Yeah.
because they are all working on really cool things to, help these. We all want to have. We all keep saying, why can't we keep, we graduate from our local universities, why are they
Okay, so-
leaving?
right.
Why are they leaving?
Well-
And so it's like, well, do you guys have jobs?
Yeah.
So if you do have jobs and you do want to hire college graduates or even interns. I mean,
Yeah.
I can connect you with the internship programs at Gonzaga if you want an intern, but like, let's get these young people together. I have 2 daughters that are recent college graduates, and understanding their struggles of finding that career right out of graduating. It's tough. It's really nerve-wracking, and they don't have that network yet. And I think emphasizing networking in the colleges is really critical, critical, because you're on your own, and where do you go? And there's so many people that can get you to places, and you just need to know who it is and where they are.
Yeah. One last question.
Maybe I'm not understanding the complexity of the problem, but I mean, it seems to me that you would just create an ontology and then an org chart based off of that, and one of y'all would have it on your website.
Yeah, I think that's what
what am I missing?
Yeah, no, you're not. It's just somebody has to do it, and I think Mark's trying.
Yeah.
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 There's a lot of, I mean, you just mentioned university, there's a lot of moving parts that go into it.
Parts.
So I think that becomes a thing, is the way to get community engagement in, for entrepreneurship specifically, is to understand what is the community, or what are the communities that are available. And that's something that, hopefully somebody puts some effort into.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
That was our last question. So we'll do one round of applause, but I want to thank everybody. I'm going to do my best. So first, we're going to thank Kelli for coming and being our guest, Roast House for the coffee, Nathan and Slab for the visuals and live streaming, the Spokane Public Library and Startup Spokane for the space. And did I get it all? I think that was everybody. All right, round of, and we just launched a Business Brew YouTube channel, so specific to Business Brew. So we're going to start trying. I was always running under the umbrella of Tinderbox Marketing, but with Nathan and Startup Spokane playing, we're going to launch it as its own sort of entity. So another player in the community for entrepreneurship. Just search Business Brew Spokane. You should find it. So round of applause for all those people and being a part of it. And thank you to everyone here and everyone that joined us online. This event couldn't happen without you, and we did have a massive hiatus from September till now, and that was largely my fault. But if you're not on my email list, give me your card before you're gone, or chat me on LinkedIn, because we have already planned out the rest of the events through now and the end of the year. So we at least have dates. So we know we're going to run full events in May and June. In July, we're going to do more of a happy hour where we'll get together at a brewery and just have beer and I don't say networking, conversations, right? All right. So thank you so much for coming. And with that, we'll say goodbye to our LinkedIn audience and hope to see you all back here in May.
Fantastic. And if anyone wants to pitch or donate and sponsor or get involved with Next Level Venture, it's nextlevelventure.xyz.
Okay.
Or XYZ.
Depending
Sounds
on where you're
fancier.
from.